Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Wilmington Cable, Video, and Telecommunication meeting. For today, Tuesday, February 18th, I am Trippi Congo, Chair of the CBT Commission. And before we get started, I'd like to do a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Gracie, Vice Chair.
Present.
Commissioner Owens.
Present.
Commissioner Cabrera.
Present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Present.
Commissioner Kelly Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Dan Walker.
Present.
Commissioner Terrence Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Bob Goff. I would also like to acknowledge others who are in attendance this afternoon. Marshall Bassanite, our Senior Legislative Advisor and CFO for Wilmington City Council. I'm not sure if John Stan is with us. John Stan, all right. Assistant City Solicitor, Anita Hawks, Legislative Admin, Assistant Jessica Sibley, from Comcast, and Ivan Thomas of DETV. So, Commissioners, if you can, please review the draft minutes from our January 17th meeting. I'll accept the motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to adopt those minutes on the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So moved. Minutes have been adopted. Going on to new business. First, we're going to have a review of the solvency of the CATV fund. Of Comcast provided by the City of Wilmington by Jessica Sibley, Senior Government and Regulatory Affairs Manager.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Sibley, Senior Manager of Government and Regulatory Affairs. Marshall, should I be waiting for the deck to appear?
Yes, if they can put the PowerPoint.
Wonderful, thank you. You can skip right to the next slide, please. There we are. So here's a brief introduction to the team, the government affairs team that oversees all of Newcastle County, including Wilmington City. We've got Stephanie. Oh, I'm so sorry. There was a typo there. I promoted myself, apparently, to Senior Vice President, which should read Stephanie Costa. I'm so sorry for that error. Caitlin Ganley, I'm sure you are all familiar with her. She's blissfully on maternity leave right now until the end of April. And of course, myself. The contact information is correct, though the labeling is a little off. So again, apologies for that. And of course, myself. And as we say at Comcast, track record matters. And that means that we have been providing the most reliable network for decades. So there are our founders down in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1963. Comcast has been in business since 1963. So, and with that comes the financial security to ensure that our network has the ability to grow and advance to meet the needs of growing communities. Next slide. So we deliver the most diverse broadband network, which incorporates internet, entertainment, mobile, voice, and home security while delivering best-in-class network performance. Here's a brief highlight. And given all those words, I, of course, will not read it to you, but some of our products and services we offer to our for our residential offering. Of course, some of the most known for are internet and home. But we also have streaming services and home security, which is a little less well known. Next slide. So Xfinity provides reliable and fast speeds for every day with fewer delays, which allows you to browse, game, and network from home. Can download large files and content in a snap. Movies and games are downloaded in minutes, and our fiber will be able to accommodate increased speeds as demand, usage, and latency increases in the future. We have increased our speeds at no additional cost consistently every year over the last 10 years. So something that's very important, especially as more and more devices seem to enter our home. There's only 4 of us in my home, and one of us is 2. And I can't believe the number of things that are connected to our network at any given time. Next slide. And of course, we have tools for when you're on the go. Stream is a personal favorite of mine, especially when I'm traveling with that toddler that I just mentioned. But you can manage your account, monitor your home, and stream internet wherever you are. We used to have an entire suite. Like I had a whole folder on my phone of Xfinity apps, and they've been condensed to 2, which really makes the management of the apps, I think, significantly easier. And the next slide. So Comcast doesn't have just products and services for the home, but a robust suite of products for businesses as well. This is inclusive of features such as 99.9% network reliability, no data caps, advanced cybersecurity, and 24/7 customer service. Comcast is committed to giving back to our community partners. As you can see, we're dedicated to investing $1 billion over the next 10 years. This commitment will be invested in digital equity, digital literacy, workforce training and development, and simply giving back and providing services to our customers. As a government affairs manager who lives and works in this region, I am more than happy to be your point of contact as we continue to grow the network, even though Wilmington is nearly 100% built out with the Comcast network, but we are always continuing to look for different partners within the city that we're able to, invest and partner with to make our neighborhoods that we live and work in even better. So here's a little bit of a snapshot of our investment for 2024 within Delaware. We have 7 Comcast lift zones in Wilmington, and those they came about during the pandemic when we were seeing children essentially studying in Taco Bell parking lots, trying to get that network connection. So we've partnered with a variety of them throughout the city to provide enhanced broadband to accommodate additional learners within their facility. So we're continuing to maintain those relationships and keep those enhanced networks up and running. We've given $1.4 million in total cash and in-kind contributions to Delaware nonprofits in the last 3 years. Wilmington was a top city for our network expansion last year in Delaware, and 100% of our network within Wilmington has access to speeds up to or over 1.2 gigabits. And I wanted to briefly touch on this while we're talking about enhancements and network reliability. We did submit a BEAD application for Newcastle County. We unfortunately were not awarded it. It went to Verizon. I thought that might be a question that would bubble up while we were here. So unfortunately, we were not awarded that, but we continue to invest within Wilmington and all of Newcastle County. So we have been supplying high-speed, low-cost internet to income-constrained individuals for over 10 years with our Internet Essentials program. Okay, next slide, please. Yep. And Internet Essentials is available to any home that receives any form of government assistance. And we have 2 options for speed, which was a new addition last year. Especially as this was another outcome of COVID, as we were having more people home, more people accessing the internet connection, really trying to make sure that there were options for different needs. My neighbor's mother is on Internet Essentials, but she's a single elderly woman. She doesn't need the speeds of a family of 4 with 2 little boys that like to game. So making sure that our packages are a little more inclusive that way. But we do rely on county and municipal support to ensure that our constituents are aware of this opportunity that we provide. We find that homes are more likely to adopt the program when it comes from a trusted third-party partner, like the city, local nonprofits, churches, those types of organizations. One of our newest products, which is also ideal for individuals on a stricter budget or do not have the traditional capability to host a modem, is Now. Now is a new line of reliable, low-cost products that consumers can purchase month to month with no credit checks or additional fees. Works similarly to a mobile hotspot. Comcast is there when you need us. Our 24/7 365 is there every minute of the day to support customers, whether on the phone, chat. One of my favorite facts is we have the ability to assist hearing impaired individuals with American Sign Language. And we do have 2 conveniently located stores in the greater Wilmington area, one at the Christiana Mall and one up on 202. I believe it's the Tallyville. Is that the correct term? Tallyville area? Yep, right by Target. And additionally, when disaster strikes, we've had a wicked week with all of this crazy wind that's really rough on the wires. Winter storms, hurricane season, our team is local, they're on the ground and out repairing as things are going down. So the guys you see out and about, they live and work right in the area too. And last, we're here to help. We can assist with any constituent inquiries, serve as a liaison to aid in repair or restoration of structural concerns, act as concierge for businesses looking for our services. We have a specialized team that handles these, either a standard business, and we also have a government team that's out there to help municipal and legislative offices with products and services that would be specific to their needs. And that is all I came with, but I am open to any questions should you have any. I do thank you for the time today. Always happy to come down and visit.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Owens.
Yes, I had a quick question about your services to the community. You said you had 7 points that you work with. What are those 7?
I don't have the list off the top of my head. I can certainly get it to you, but we have it at let me see how good I can do. Kingswood Community Center, or is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. The Police Athletic League. I want to say I don't want to say it, just in case. Give me 1 second. We set them up in 2020, which seems like forever ago. And I would be happy to send you a list as well, since I am failing with the memory game here.
That's fine. We can follow up.
Chair, do we have a copy of the presentation?
It's in the binder.
Commissioner Kelly Williams, do you have a question?
I do, thank you. When you talk about Wilmington, are you speaking about the city of Wilmington and within the city confines, or the greater Wilmington area?
Both. It was inclusive of both.
Okay. I just recall a few years ago, Comcast wasn't an option where I was residing inside the city because it wasn't available. And so I'm just wondering what you meant by it was fully built out. Unless something has happened in the last, 2.5, 3 years, it wasn't an option for me living, in the city.
I believe there was only 1 or 2 buildings within the city that we do not service that we have been working to get service to. So that perhaps has changed. Okay,
so I was a resident. It's not, a building, right? Mm-hmm. It was a townhome, but so you're suggesting that everybody inside the city limits now has access to Comcast?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I can double check an address if you would like me to, but.
What were the buildings that didn't have Comcast?
I don't remember,
No.
But again, I can circle back.
Okay. Yes, please. Thank you.
I believe they were apartment buildings.
Okay.
Which can also come with agreements with other providers that would block our entry. So, which sometimes townhomes can be wrapped into those bulk agreements,
Mm-hmm.
but each circumstance is slightly different. But if you want to circle back one last step, I do have my list here that I had on my phone.
All right.
We have the Bellevue Community Center, Clarence Frame Boys and Girls Club, and I'm going to apologize, this is all of Newcastle County. That's Newark, Hilltop Lutheran Neighborhood Center, Kingswood Community Center, Latin American Community Center, Police Athletic League of Wilmington, the Pearl Center, Walnut Street YMCA, and West End Neighborhood House.
Okay, thank you. Do any other commissioners have any comments or questions? Commissioner Owens?
Yes. One other question I had. So there's a program that y'all offer to the city of Philadelphia where y'all give free Wi-Fi and routers to low-income seniors. Is that a program that is also extended to the city of Wilmington?
That would be part of Internet Essentials.
Okay. So they can get at zero cost, correct?
The internet the actual service is one of the 2 tiers, but we don't charge extra for the equipment. Those prices that you see, the $14.95 or the $29.95, that's all inclusive.
Thank you for that.
Sure. And students, they had a program where the city was paying for the students' internet essentials during COVID. So it cost them nothing, but that was through our IEPP agreement that we had with the city. But any city can do that, but that's how that worked.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Walker?
Thank you. First, thanks for the presentation and being here. It's wonderful to hear about all you are doing in Delaware and particularly in our city. I just have one general question. You talked about your investment in Delaware, and there was $1.4 million total cash and in-kind contributions to Delaware nonprofits over the last 3 years. I'm assuming there's a standard grant-making cycle with Comcast that you're referring to in this bucket?
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay.
Part of that is inclusive of our Comcast Foundation grants.
Got it. Is that information that we could receive in terms of how
Recipients
we
of the grants?
the recipients of the grants, but also how we can publicize the grant more broadly to our community nonprofit partners? So that we
I would
can,
love to do
help
that.
the pipeline grow a bit?
Yeah,
Awesome.
happy to.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from any commissioners? Does anyone from the public have any comments or questions? Yes, Marshall.
Yes, just a general question for the eligibility requirements for Internet Essentials. Considering the issues that are going on now with the freezing of the federal funds, are y'all going to be looking at some other type of temporary eligibility requirements just in case something happens? I'm not sure.
We are
Okay.
trying to get caught up as much as
Okay.
everyone else is and getting our hands wrapped around what's going on. We are committed to making sure that no one who has this or is entitled to this will be losing it.
Okay.
So that is most likely going to be called for a pivot or a new strategy, but we're committed to serving our customers the same way we have been for the last 12 years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Walker?
Follow up on Ms. Basnight's question. So it looks like the eligibility is largely categorical eligibility in nature. In terms of publicizing the eligibility to potential users, is this information all on your website? And apologies, I didn't look beforehand,
okay.
so it seems like a novice question, but
That's okay.
just to make sure we can get it to the people who could be eligible. I'm assuming this eligibility is all on your website.
It is.
And in terms of the process for applying for eligibility, is it simple as presenting proof of this documentation, or is there a secondary step?
Yeah, and some are auto-approved as well based on your address, because one of the criteria as well that would enable someone to receive Internet Essentials would be if they live in a school district where they have free or reduced lunch. So for example, I live within the Coatesville School District in Pennsylvania. I would be automatically approved for Internet Essentials even though we don't receive any form of government assistance. And because my address would be triggered, there is a...
So you use the feeder patterns established by the local DOE?
I'm sorry.
You use feeder patterns, meaning the path in which a child goes to.
Oh,
that
I'm
school?
sorry. Yeah, that is one of them.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So a great way to just umbrella think of it is if an individual receives any form of government assistance, they are eligible. That's survivor benefits for veterans and veteran families. That's Medicaid, SNAP, free or reduced lunch, Pell Grants. It's very inclusive of the variety of services, and we have a specific customer service team that's dedicated to helping their customers walk through that. Also, our store teams. I really encourage, especially our more elderly population, when they are signing up to go into a store, because you get that one-on-one time with an individual that you're sitting with. But the process is pretty simple. It's a form, an upload button.
Got it. Do you partner with the local service centers in terms of distributing packets for information?
Yep. And we also attend senior fairs, back to school fairs. Those are often put on by school districts or legislative offices. Our nonprofits should have them all in their lobbies. We have a lot of partners throughout the county.
And so simply living in a school district that is zoned for Title I, it's a designation from the federal government. Simply living in that district makes you eligible for Internet Essentials
Yes.
in and of itself.
Yep, like I said, I could get it if I wanted it.
And you all do not go back and make a determination on whether someone is above a threshold and
No.
kick them out of the program.
Nope.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lots
Any-
of school districts are, more than you'd realize,
Oh, yes, for sure.
especially post-COVID.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone in the public? Do any commissioners have any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Jessica.
Sure,
We
thank you for
appreciate
having us.
All right, you're welcome.
Me. I'm so used to having my partner in crime with me.
All right, next we're going to have a review of the solvency of the CATV fund. Marshall?
Yes, Chair. So we was here at the January 17th CBT Commission meeting, and we was talking about the solvency of the CBT fund. It was shared that the franchise agreement that we just recently renewed and did an extension out for Comcast for 5 years, that within that franchise agreement, the amount of franchise fees we're looking to get was roughly $3.5 million over 5 years, and then an additional funding for community channels guarantee grant, a minimum of $450,000. So just want to mention that that's the total amount of revenues we're looking at. The concern is that as of right now, we have $2.3 million in our savings fund for the KTV fund, which is used to help pay for our WITN as well as our third-party operator. So when we're looking at the cost for WITN over 5 years, that's easily $5.6 million. And the amount of franchise fees that we get is $3.5 million over 5 years. So looking at a shortfall of $2.1 million. For our TPO, we would get a minimum of $450,000 over 5 years. And the current cost over 5 years for our TPO is roughly $630,000. So there would be a shortfall. And once again, I mentioned that the amount of funds in our savings account is $2.3 million. So every year when there's a shortfall, which every year there is going to be a shortfall because we don't have enough revenues to cover, we would have to draw down every year out of our savings, which I call our fund balance. So we're trying to figure out a way of how can we save some on the life of the KTV fund balance. So there's some different scenarios. Scenario number one is have no costs for the TPO. And if we did that and we did it over 5 years, all we would have is just WITN. And that would bring our savings to $1.3 million, meaning we would have to use $1.3 million over 5 years. So out of a $2.3 million fund balance, if we subtract $1.3 million out, we would have more money to cover us out, probably could carry us out additional 5 more years. Another scenario that possibly could be considered is to have a fee payment for the TPO. For example, to have the city will not pay any costs for a lease agreement. The city will not pay any costs for any equipment or utilities, and we will just pay a fee to the TPO of $30,000 per year, right? So that would draw down to our savings of $1.5 million. So out of a $2.3 million surplus savings over 5 years, we would draw down $1.5 million. So that $2.3 million, you know, it could extend out if we only use $1.5. Another possibility is, once again, is for the lease agreement that we do, is to assume the city would just pay 50% of the lease agreement rather than 100%, right? So if we assume 50%, and we assume that the city won't pay any utilities, and if we assume that the city will not provide for any equipment or any equipment upgrades, we will use $1.7 million out of that $2.3 million savings. Another option could be for the city to pay just 25% of the lease agreement. And once again, the city would not be responsible for paying any of the utility costs, nor would the city be responsible for paying for any equipment or any equipment upgrades. And for that savings, there will be $1.6 million that we would spend out of the $2.3 million over 5 years. So those were the main scenarios that we looked at, because one of the main items is when it comes to WRITN. So WRITN is our G. Just so the public know, we have PEG, we have, you know, public, the E, education, G is government. Nothing can like exist without our G. So those were the 4 scenarios that we looked at. And with those 4 scenarios, we just wanted to share them with our CVT commissioners, just to start off some type of conversation. And one of the other things that I just want to mention as well is the city also have the ability to have a TPO, and for the TPO to pay us a fee for use of the cable line. So, Chair, I just asked if there's any of the commissioners have any comments, so we can know like a suggested path forward regarding any of those scenarios.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioner Walker.
Before I offer comments, just a few questions to even get to whether I have comments on the path forward. So looking at this, we're operating right now over the course of our 5 years in a $2.1 million deficit. That seems to include the current fiscal year, correct?
Oh yes, so when we built out fiscal year 2025's budget, we was already in a deficit. We had to draw down on our funds, our savings account.
Got it. So we're in a current operating deficit of WITN of $336,000 and of the TPO of $27,000.
Yes.
That's correct. Okay. And I'm assuming any changes we propose to make will not go into effect until next fiscal year, so we need to eat the cost of the current fiscal year. Is that the
So that's a good question, Commissioner Walker. So I just want to be like really clear, is our TPO agreement expires on March 31st of 2025. Mm-hmm. We also signed a lease agreement. That lease agreement also expires March 31st. Mm-hmm. So whatever decisions is made, will impact that. So so what I mean is we would have to draw down on our savings, based upon, like whatever decision is made.
So we possibly would have, depending on what decision we make, let's say worst case scenario, we choose not to renew our lease agreement or our TPO agreement, we would only have about 3 months worth of savings in this fiscal year out of this $336,000 number.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Looking at the presentation that was put forth, just to make sure I'm clear on the numbers, the proposals as they are outlined seem to suggest a few different options. In terms of the most affordable option, it's not to renew. Was there a discussion or an option put forth about whether we would consider leasing our signal rather to
Yeah.
ATPO and what that could bring in terms of a revenue generator?
So, Commissioner Walker, my last comment was mentioned that we could potentially charge our TPO a fee. So, if you look at slide number 9, if we adjusted scenario number 1, and if we assume a fee of $30,000 per year for the TPO, that would be roughly $150,000 over 5 years. So rather than using 1.39 out of our kitty, that would bring us down to 1.24 million out of our kitty. So that is, so that will be part of adjustment of scenario number 1 if you look on slide number 9.
That's under scenario 1?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Cabrera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my question is, in terms of trying to maintain the solvency, do we know if the TPO is at a point where they would be able to continue with any one of these scenarios in terms of any income that you're generating? My concern, of course, is that for once we've traditionally had amazing programs with our public station in trying to really educate the community. And face it, that station was how people got their information when the mainstream media was not providing it. And now we see a real modern station, looks like one of the major networks. I think they're doing an outstanding job. I would hate to lose that because there's so much variety and inclusivity. So I guess the question is, have any of these scenarios been discussed with the TPO, and are they at a place financially that they would have the solvency to participate in any one of these scenarios? And then how much flexibility do we have to help them get to that point, and what other options we could explore? Because I would hate for that not to continue, but I also understand that we're not bringing in the same amount as we did in the past with the franchise agreement. Have those discussions been had?
Chair, did you want me to respond?
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah. So as far as these 4 different scenarios, no, the specifics of these were not discussed, but there was a meeting with the TPO. But one of the decisions that the CBT Commission, will have to review, as well as the body of council, is the frequency. At what point do you stop the bleeding from going into our CATV fund balance, right, to the point where you fully utilize all of the funds? So that's the reason these scenarios were done, realizing that the G was is what's mandated or what's within our code. So as far as whether or not they can afford any of those scenarios, Mr. Thomas is here. He could answer that question.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm April Johnson. I am the Director of Operations for DETV. Listening to the 4 scenarios that was presented today, I'm thinking 2 of the scenarios could fit for DETV, but I think that we would like an opportunity to discuss what this would look like for us and how it would impact us financially, if that's fair.
Yes, completely fair. Thank you.
I do have another question. For number 1, your number 1 option, well, actually your 5th that you came into, where you said the TPO would pay a fee for the cable itself, for the line, what would that look like?
That'd be one, that would bring our savings, well, a use of 1.24 million out of our 2.3 million fund balance over 5 years.
So that would be us paying you.
Yes, $30,000 per year.
And your scenario 2 was a payment to us for $30,000.
Yes.
Okay, and that includes keeping a line and not paying you a fee.
Right. And that includes, no lease, we're not paying for a lease, we're not paying for utilities, we're not paying for equipment.
Okay. And that would break up into monthly payments?
Yes.
That would be submitted. Mm-hmm. And that agreement would be for how many years?
Oh, so I just want to be clear. So any agreements that we would do, like right now, it would be a 1-year agreement.
And to be able to go back and have these discussions to figure out what is best for DETV, when would we be able to come back and have another discussion?
Chair, what we can do is we can see if we can schedule like another meeting within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Have another CBT commission, and hopefully before then, maybe we can have a small group meeting with DTV to see which one of these scenarios could be doable and workable. I just have to be mindful too that we're on a very tight time frame, but respectfully, we want to, make sure that we're doing like good business as well, is that March the 31st, that lease agreement,
Yes.
So we just have to plan accordingly.
Yes, Commissioner Terrence Williams.
Chair, I just have a question as far as the franchise fee revenues. If they were to actually be worse than what we had projected, that's going to have a negative impact on this agreement as well, correct?
Yeah, if I may, that's the reason we're having these discussions, because right now, this current fiscal year, we're already in the hole, right? So we have to draw down out of our savings. When we did the fiscal year 2025 budget, we drew down funds out of our CATV fund to be able to balance the budget, right? And when we do fiscal year 2026, we have to do likewise. So it comes out of that 2.3 million savings.
Okay, Commissioner Williams. Any follow-up?
No, Chair.
No. Commissioner Walker, followed by Ivan Thomas.
So I just want to make sure, follow up on one of the line of questions from Commissioner Williams. The current agreement we have in place with Comcast was an extension of the previous agreement, correct?
Yes.
And when is that up for a omnibus renegotiation?
Okay, so that'd be like another 5 years. We
Okay.
just signed the agreement in October, and these numbers are based upon the anticipated revenue based on that new extension agreement that we signed.
Got it. Thank you. In terms of the extension and anticipated revenue, one line of questioning I have is, I notice in this fiscal year, we have other costs, IG, equipment, et cetera, for, I'm assuming both WITN and the TPO. I'm not exactly sure, of $150,000 here. Is that some outlier? Because the preceding years, are cut down drastically, 10, 15, 20,000, et cetera.
Yeah, so that was an outlier for this current fiscal year. When we did our budget, that was the amount that, we had requested in additional funds because there was relocating of WITN. We had to do additional funds to draw down for paying the difference of the rent. We didn't factor in like utilities. And so what we said is, because we want to be prudent, because in the end, this all impacts WITN's budget. So what we said going out for fiscal year 2026, I talked to Wendell. I was like, okay, we're going to use the bare minimum for the years out. If something drastic happens, then we can just draw down like additional funds. And one of the things we are also going to look at is, are there additional items that could be cut down some in WITN's budget, right? So, for example, when we did this franchise agreement, we had an outside attorney expert, right? So that type of cost is going to be like reduced down some, so that we looking at both pots. We're looking at the G as reasonably as possible as well.
That gets to my other question in terms of assuming sort of all things equal here. If there are other, when we get to a lean budget, if there are any other emergencies, we would have to dip into the fund balance, the KTV fund balance, or is there a buffer built into these numbers? Because in order for me to make a decision, I need to have some level of confidence in the available buffer should emergencies occur.
Yes, so Commissioner Williams, if something happens, we have the ability to go right into the fund balance. We have that ability.
Okay. And I just have, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate venue or time or not. But since we have the ETV here, I wanted to ask them a few questions. I don't have their financials, but I did a little digging on my own. And Chair, I will reflect to you if this is the appropriate time.
Michelle.
Some of their financials it might not be their audited financials, but some of their stuff is in their the proposal that they submitted, which is under
tab 4,
but it's not their audited financials. But I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I saw the comments on revenue sources and things of that nature in their proposal. I was particularly looking at for the foundation itself, and if you all want to get back to me, that's completely fine. I don't want to put you on the spot. But according to the most recent 990 form, I see a revenue of $411,000, $982, expenses of $880,000 for a net loss of $468,318. That was in 2023. 2022, I see net income of $361,000, and for 2021, I see a net income of $371,000. I'm assuming in each of these years there were changes in your program services or your grants amounts and things of that nature. I'm assuming COVID was good.
COVID was great because what it did was it forced us to create different content for the community, such as the kids programming, the messaging from the governor's office, Secretary of Labor's office, to keep the city of Wilmington informed on what's going on, and especially DHSS. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves with, is keeping the community informed, unlike how it's been before. We've created something modern, people are watching, and people are getting definitely informed by watching DETV.
What's your strategy as ARPA funds are essentially dried up? Those allocations would have had to be made by the end of 2025, and final expenditure at the end of 2026. On top of what we're seeing at the federal level around uncertainty, confusion around pass-through of funds, what is your strategy for solvency yourself before we talk about it?
And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. What we've done, and we knew this day was coming. We knew ARPA was going to dry up. So what we did was we created the DETV Media Group. It's our for-profit company, and with that for-profit company, we've been focusing a lot of our efforts, about 99% of our efforts from 2019 for online. And we're just like every other TV station where the bread and butter comes from advertising. So what we've done is we created, so the DTV Media Group, and then under that are the different networks that we have, such as the Every Woman Network, it's just women. We have DTV Sports, we have DTV Arts, DTV Culture, DTV Business, where we're focusing on all business, small businesses for Delaware. What we've seen there is there's not a lot of companies advertising to black and brown businesses. And the small businesses, which some people say are 100 employees or lower, I like to say it's 10 or lower, or 20 or lower. So we're making more advertising more available for them. That will allow us to continue production for the community and get these businesses seen, right? We get the businesses seen, we create an ecosystem that now people will walk into, say, Collars and Cuffs downtown that never been to Collars and Cuffs before. Mm-hmm. And we've also created in there, under our DETV News Network, which is one of the shows that a lot of people have been on, The Agenda. We leverage ad revenue against that. We have DETV News. We average, again, ad revenue against that. And Good Morning Wilmington, Bonjour Wilmington, excuse me, Good Morning Delaware. We changed the name to Good Morning Delaware to make that statewide, because with the Comcast signal, thank you so much. With the Comcast signal, we're able to go below the canal. So we're putting a lot of our efforts into nonprofit. And wait till you hear about this one. I'm really super excited about this one. We're putting our efforts in DTV Small Business and the DTV Nonprofit Collab. What the Nonprofit Collab is we, in being a nonprofit since 2019, we've seen a problem. And the problem is nonprofits are making such an impact in community, they know not too much about marketing or distribution of their services. So what we came up with, and we had a call, was it a week ago, 10 days ago? I had 57 nonprofits on the call that want to partner with DETV, so DETV can tell their story, help them with fundraising, and create content. So in short, how are we going to generate income now that the grants are gone? One, we knew they were coming, and two, we positioned ourselves that even if we have to walk away from the city, we can walk away with our heads up and content with us and still continue to make an impact on Delaware.
Got it. And so I appreciate that. And so the for-profit arm is a revenue generator.
Yes.
Yes.
And the signal you are receiving from Comcast itself has information that is benefiting Delawareans statewide.
Statewide.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And did I mention we played the Blue Coats basketball game?
Councilwoman Bracy has her hand up and should continue to preside over the meeting temporarily.
Thank you. I just had one question, Marshall, if you could, and this is more primarily for the record. Out of the scenarios that you've presented today, for those that may be watching this on the replay, which one saves the city the most money and gets us out of the red the fastest?
The scenario that will save on as much as possible of using the $2.3 million over 5 years that could probably extend out to another 10 years is an adjustment to scenario number one, which will be there will be no lease agreement. We would pay for no lease agreement. We would not pay for any utilities. We would not pay for any equipment or any equipment upgrades. And we would ask for the TPO to pay the city a fee for direct use of the cable feed line for $30,000 per year for $150,000 over 5 years. And that would be roughly $1.24 million use out of that $2.3 million savings. And Vice Commissioner Bracy, if you can just continue to preside over the meeting, please.
Absolutely. I think Commissioner Walker has his hand up.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question that I failed to ask earlier. In terms of the items being shared over the Comcast signal, what percentage of them are from the foundation? What percentage of them are from the for-profit?
100% is right now from the foundation. We just created the the for-profit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the for-profit you're talking about was not the one that was, or were you just saying you've been planning since 2019?
We've been planning since 2019, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. Just thinking about scenarios. Scenario 6, DETV becomes a TPO of everything, and we help cut the budget in half for the 1.9 million that WITN operates. We could fill in the blank somewhere along the line with that, because I was just sitting here thinking, when I was just sitting here thinking about everything that we've been doing for the city, we have been doing flawlessly without, and we thank you for the help of paying the rent and the utilities, but we've been doing it with our own equipment. We've been doing 98% of it with our own equipment that we spent about $300,000 for to create. And I'm thinking, why should we pay the city of Wilmington to do something that is right for the people of Wilmington? And they've been really, the people of Wilmington really has been prospering from. And it was just hitting me like, wow, like we're here now talking about like DETV pays the city of Wilmington. Like we already have to pay to create the content, which is about $15,000 a month per show. And now we have to pay the city of Wilmington to get the signal out to the people of Wilmington that needs it. That's been needing it. So I'm just
So just to be clear,
registering.
right, but just to be clear, if we wanted to assist with WITN, right, could there be a conversation that says that us, DETV, absorbs WITN in its entirety, and maybe, and I don't know if this is saying it properly, you guys repurpose the staff that you have, and instead of you guys paying 1.9 million, you pay us maybe half of that to do what WITN is doing with our own staff.
Okay.
Commissioner Owens has had his hand up, so I just want to acknowledge his question or comment.
Yeah, this is just a point of clarity. So it's from my understanding that we have to keep both the P and the G separate, the public assets and the governmental side assets, because there's different regulations that come into play there, as well as the G is not allowed to bring in any revenue, from my understanding. Just again, if I'm wrong on that, can someone correct me?
Okay, thank you.
That was what we understood as well from the meeting that we had with, a couple of weeks ago. We understood that as well. But if we were to have this conversation and DETV was somehow able to take on the responsibilities of the WITN, we would be able to have both of those entities separate. And we would be able to save the city money as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker, did you have a question or follow-up?
It was a sort of more of a question for possibly one of the attorneys in the room in terms of April's question. Not to put it off, but I think any conversation of that nature would go to eventually inform an RFP, which we shouldn't be discussing publicly, correct?
Yeah, not at the moment, but I just want to be, just to be clear, it was mentioned that there was a scenario number 6 regarding the government channel. There's not a scenario number 6, but the options that you want to discuss, we can have them in the meeting.
Thank you.
Will that be considered taking over like WITN? We can have like a discussion, but and I don't want to misspeak. So once we have that meeting, we can go into the specifics as far as what can be done, as well as like what can't be done. More so from a legal perspective.
Right.
And I just want to be clear as well. Chair is, we have the CBT Commission, but we also have like the body of council, right? So it's twofolded. Mm-hmm. Things impacts budgets and everything. So it's full circle. It's the moving parts.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Do any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Commissioner Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just say that, and I know we're going to have some follow-up conversations around this, but the benefit to DETV is the signal that the city provides, because that's how you're able to expand your scope statewide and generate revenue. So I think as we're thinking through these conversations, we need to really be understanding the value add to you as a company for having access to our signal, as well as what is the value add to the taxpayers and the residents of the city of Wilmington, as we really evaluate the decision making and understanding that, you know, as commissioners, and then also as some of us are council members, we have an obligation to be very fiscally responsible with the funds that are, you know, entrusted to us to govern. So I just wanted to put that out there so that as we're thinking through the best case scenario, the value add to you as the, you know, to generate profit, and also the value add to the city and us being able to kind of really be responsible and not operate in the red like we're doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivan.
Councilwoman Bracey, I want to respectfully disagree. The value add isn't DTV having the signal. Since 2019, what we've been doing is focusing the content that we create to the people that are on their tablets and on their cell phones. That's where our revenue is generated from online. The benefit is for not for DETV nor the people on this council, but for the residents of Wilmington, because those are still some residents in Wilmington that watch local TV. That's where we put that's where we put like everything that we make, but our profit and our revenue comes from the digital space that we own.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Bracey.
Thank you for that clarification. So, in essence, going back to what Commissioner Cabrera had mentioned earlier, if for some odd reason you did not have access to this signal, it's not going to put you guys out of business, which I don't think anybody wants to do. Is that correct?
What I would say is it will make a huge impact for the residents of Wilmington when it even comes down to council people getting their message out to the community. The Latino population getting information about healthcare, which comes across on our shows Buenos Dias, Delaware. It wouldn't be Delaware on DETV suffering. It would be the city of Wilmington.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cabrera.
Well, Mr. Ivins, that was the sentiment that I was going to share, and I do not disagree with you. But as we have to be fiscally responsible, I think we need to evaluate everything and make the best decisions. Right. But in this particular scenario, I would like to say that I favor what you say because it is a benefit. And traditionally, I know that we have other sources now, the internet and so many access to so many apps to get information. But this is our information, local information, a language that our people speak. And thank you for including the Latin community and the Spanish language in the programming that we did not always see. So it's very unique to what we have. And facing, we were the last live TV, cable TV programming in the nation. We do make an impact. We know that people get elected by watching the shows on these, channels, government channels. We know that we can communicate with the community on any issue, meetings, whatever is going on, that we can empower them, and we've done that. And you're right, you help us as leaders, council leaders, get our message out with your diverse programming. I also, wearing my have to be responsible fiscal hat, understand that we have to find the balance that will create the least amount of expense or damage in terms of programming. So we're going to work this out. We're going to have some meetings coming up. But again, my sentiments are this. I fully agree with you. What you bring to the table definitely is a benefit more to us than the single. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have questions or comments? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Yes.
I would just like to add that DETV absolutely respects the fact that we need to be fiscally sound, right? We absolutely understand what's at stake here, and we are absolutely willing to have the conversations that are probably uncomfortable for some folks, but understanding that we have Wilmington and Delaware as a whole best interests at heart. So wherever we can make an impact, however we can close some of those deficits for the city, and we can make sure that our messaging or your messaging is still being pushed out to the public, we'd be more than happy to have conversations in regard to that. But we absolutely respect where this commission is at this time.
Thank you. And I believe that we did kind of seamlessly blend into agenda number 3. Or letter C about the or letter B about the discussion on the third-party operator and next steps.
Yeah,
I believe we did cover that. Michelle?
Yes, I just want to just to comment on that. Before any decisions or discussion is made, we first want to have a meeting with DTV so they can share what could be feasible, so we can bring them part of the conversation, and then we will see if we can schedule another meeting within the next 2 to 3 weeks for a CBT meeting. And I know I'm repeating myself, but we're concerned because we have a tight time frame. Mm-hmm. Whatever will be done, it will be like a 1-year agreement because we need to figure all this out.
Understood.
Then number 2, because we paying this huge lease agreement, we need to figure that out, right? Meaning, if that's not going to be renewed, we have to go into our savings again because it's going to cost money to move that equipment out to, so I don't want to say that's going to happen, but,
Mm-hmm.
If it does, we need to be prepared for that. And it doesn't, it takes time. It's costs,
Question.
So,
Go ahead.
No, I respect what you're saying, and I just want to say for the record that this move wasn't cheap for DETV either. We have literally incurred costs being in that location as well. We pay the parking, which is absolutely extensive, and we were under the impression that we would get reimbursement for parking from the city, and we have not yet gotten that, right? And we have employees that we've been reimbursing parking for since we got there. So there are other costs that we have, even with the equipment. When the equipment go bad or there's something that's going on, we haven't gotten an upgrade or fixed equipment from the city ever.
I'm just going to we're going to have to respectfully disagree because I know that Wendell, our station manager, I believe there's emails that went back and forth regarding
Right, he
some recent
did. He
equipment.
just bought something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So when there's needs, because it's not DTV's equipment, it's the city of Wilmington. So we
Right.
want to make sure that we're, we're responsible. And I do believe maybe the former chief of staff might have made promises regarding parking. I believe somebody was supposed to have reached out to Chris or Rob Buccini regarding parking. But I'm just saying it was nothing formally that we discussed.
It moved fast.
Yes.
The process
That it
moved
did.
fast, and
Right.
and that's what and no fault to the city.
Okay.
It was we all been trying to make this work.
Right.
And we all been accruing a lot of expenses doing
Okay.
so. So again, we totally understand
All
the fiscal where we are fiscally, where you are fiscally with it, and whatever way we need to make this work. Long as it's a win, if it's a win-win for both of us, it's a win-win for the city of Wilmington. Let's make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bracy, did you have any questions or comments? I thought I saw your hand.
I did, but I think you might have answered it. My only question was, considering that you guys had a presence in that building before, how were you handling parking with your staff prior to the move? Because you were already there, correct?
Yeah,
I'm
so-
just trying to be clear.
Okay, so what happened was we had the location on Lancaster, which was our primary place of working. We would show up at Market Street when shoots were needed. So we were there 2-4 hours out of the day, and the guys either paid for parking or they what's it called, carpooled over there. When we got the word to move to totally over there. And Marshall, correct me if I'm wrong, was we had 30 days. We had 30 days to move, and then it got extended to I want to say another 30 days to do all that. So it was something that happened, and there were promises made, and we accrued I want to say an additional $8,000 in our move because we had to take down our kitchen to move over there. So it's been something. But we were handling the parking with guys going over there 4 hours out of the day. That was and that was carpooling, and that was easy for us. And now that our entire team is over there, and parking officers are on vengeance, like it's really costly for DETV to be there.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get clarity. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Marshall?
Yeah, and I just want to just share, I mean, just for the public record, is the reason the move was made was because there was major HVAC
Yes.
issues. But then number two, the lease at the Market Street is substantially cheaper for the city versus what it was at Lancaster.
Okay.
So so that was like the tip-in. It was like, hey, this here was much cheaper. We got a savings. We got a discount. So I just wanted to share that for some of the new commissioners that might not know.
And one thing, just for the record, also, in talking to the owner of the building, he was mentioning that if the city signed a lease more than 1 year, the rent would be a lot cheaper than where it is now.
And that's good. That's good to know. But because of these like fiscal challenges,
I got
it
you.
sort of made it tight for us to lock into a multi-year agreement because we don't want to tie our hands. So that's the reason it was done that way.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Any other questions or comments from anyone in the public? I'll return back to commissioners. Commissioner Walker?
Just one clarifying question. In terms of your fiscal year, do you operate on a calendar year or do you follow the city fiscal year?
It's calendar year.
Thank you.
All right. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. We will have we're having a follow-up meeting. Marshall, I'll let you and our Chief of Staff, Elijah, connect with DETV so that we can all sit down and figure out a path forward, and then we'll come back with another CVT
Yes.
meeting. Okay. All right. And if there are no other questions or concerns from anyone, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.